Oh, there we go. Okay.
So, you want to kick launch off?
Yeah, we just wanted to get a sense of.
It's the 21st of October. It's Fraser River Pile and Drive. There, I did it.
It used to be Drive. It changed, I think 25 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we had a big debate about this earlier
Yeah.
because everybody says Pile and Drive, and it's in my head now as
I
well.
know I said it earlier.
Yeah.
That's
Anyway,
okay.
Dredge.
It's Kate and Peter here interviewing with Nate. Nate, perhaps if you could just start with giving us your name and your
Sure.
position in the company.
My name is Nate Stafiej, the equipment superintendent for Fraser River Pile and Dredge. Been with the company almost 10 years. I started off in 2005 as a welder apprentice in a welding shop. And then at the end of the year, so at the end of 2005, I switched over to the heavy duty shop, completed my apprenticeship, got my Red Seal ticket, and then about 3 years ago I applied and became the equipment superintendent, and so I've been doing that and taking care of the marine fleet as well as the land fleet, all the equipment associated, and as well as all the OE members for the two shops.
Members. We'll have to.
Operating engineers.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a few different unions that work under our umbrella.
Which ones?
We have the operating engineers, who are the deckhands, welders, mechanics, operators. We have the bridgemen, who do all. They're pretty much always under the hook, you call it, right, or anything hooking up to the crane.
Okay.
So they do all the more or less. They're water construction guys, you can say. And then we've also got teamsters for the warehouse duties. Yeah.
Okay. So when you were saying your background is in welding, and then you started that way.
Yeah, I started that way. My father-in-law is Phil Anderson. He started with the company back in 1973 as a welding apprentice. His father also worked for Fraser River Pile and Dredge, I believe back in 1949 after the major flood he started. And then his dad's brother at the time started a few years earlier and was the mechanic with Fraser River Pile and Dredge. And then Phil's cousin Phil's cousin Reloy also became a mechanic with Fraser River back in the 70s and became the mechanic lead hand. And so it was kind of a, family orientated up through the lines, and my father-in-law got me involved, and it's pretty much the only career job I've had, and it's worked out very well.
So tell us the story of how your sort of father-in-law brought you in. What were you doing at the time?
I was a university student. I was also working for a forestry company. I was doing geography as my major at university, but I've always into automotives and building cars and racing cars on the side for fun. And he saw my abilities and knew that this was a good place to work. And at the time when I was dating his daughter and engaged, I didn't really know what this company was all about until I started here after we got married. And it was a really good fit. And then the welding side, I wanted to do more fabricating, and it's pretty industrial.
Yeah.
But then there was an opening in the mechanic shop, and the guys over there got me interested. And being young, I switched over. And
just so I understand, when you said you were in university, and then did you start welding like after you knew you were working here, or how did that?
Yeah, no, the only welding I'd done at home was just with the little wire, MIG feeder. I didn't really know any of the school technical aspects of it, just what I'd learned by reading and trying myself. Welding, any of the, like welding or mechanical, you still need the ability to, work with your hands and, see things in your mind how you want it built, without a drawing. And, just that correlation of being able to do it and see it is something that all the guys that work in this industry need. It's not something you can teach. You need to be really book smart or really good hands-on, but if you have the have the adaptation to do both. It works out really well.
So you mean to do something and to see something.
Yeah.
And then they kind of work
Hand in hand.
off of each other,
Yeah.
almost. And for you, how do you think I'm really interested in that process. Like, do you see something first, or?
Yeah, I guess
in your mind,
in my own mind, you see it and then work backwards. Like, what parts does it take to do that, or you see it something broken or damaged, and kind of how's it supposed to be, and how can we get there? I mean, that in itself, from where I was in the field repairing things to now, I kind of have to. You see it a little bit differently, more of, what's going to cost more or be more effective, or where can we, not spend money if it's not really that important. But as a mechanic or, fabricating at home, you can see it in your head what it should look like, or what you want as a finished product, and that's what we work towards. Yeah.
Can I take you a step further back? And did you grow up in the area?
Yeah, I grew up in Pitt Meadows, elementary school, high school. Went to university at UCFE out in the valley. Had a full scholarship for soccer.
Wow.
I even did some post-secondary education at BCIT for GPS, GIS.
Right.
And then I was in the fire department with Pitt Meadows. I applied to become an RCMP officer and had some interviews, and then started working here. And it was a lot more fun, and the environment's always changing, so your day is always different.
Yeah, I'm really interested also when you say that your day is always changing. I mean, we've noticed, I think, in these interviews that there is no typical day. Like, it's hard to say, hey, so tell me about your typical day.
Every morning, two times a week we have morning meetings, and I lead the meetings for the superintendent meetings, and I always have Curtis and myself, the other superintendent yard, we always have plans set out for the day, but depending on how many jobs or activities are going on away from the yard, kind of directs how our day is going to go. If something breaks down in the field, the lead hand in the shop, mechanic shop, or the welding shop is contacted, or I'm contacted. We send the manpower needed and parts, or for repairs, or just assess for repairs. So I can have the whole day plan what we're going to do in the yard. As soon as that phone call, if something breaks down in the field, it's changed instantly. Or with all the number of scows and barges we have coming in, or fighting with tides, because the water drops up and down, and that plays a part when we can do inspections over the land, or move material, or load material, or walk cranes on and off. So, yeah.
What are you also use the word fun?
Yes.
So what's fun about your job?
What's fun? It's fun in the sense that now, that no day is ever the same. There's no two typical days. It is fun meeting as many people as we do, develop relationships, also even relationships with other companies or salespeople. Those do come into play, and if you're an honest person, you lean on a salesperson to get things done, or a service rep, and they go both ways, and they call in for a favor, and that's part of the relationships you build. I do a lot of research on the equipment we own. I'm still finding facts and little specifications that been overlooked for years. And he's still finding that in all the old equipment, and always updating that. It's just the environment of people / different all the time, always different projects. I mean, you look at a scout there, and the guys are repairing it, but every time we do it, it's like, how can we do it more efficiently or better? And then you're always in your head, you're always trying to think, how can I get the guys to save them half an hour each day? To overall picture, it makes us more effective at our repairs, and we'll help the budget overall as well. So,
can you you said you have different field sites. Tell us about some of the field sites that you have going on at the moment.
Right now, at the moment, we're actually slower than we normally have been. We've got a derrick and a crane and some our drilling equipment up north in Prince Rupert. So we've gotten into drilling, so they're drilling piles. We've got
Actually, can you explain that in detail for...
Sure. So normally we, dive piles right from, rock and stick with just a set of leads hanging off a crane with a big weight. It's called drop hammer, so you just pound piles in the ground. We've got diesel hammers, so, once you set up the leads with the diesel hammer on top, it fires and it pounds the pile into the ground. Then the newer stuff is, it's called a vibro, and what it is it's just got clamps that clamps onto the pipe, and a power pack runs, it's called the vibro head, and all that's in there is hydraulic motors with gears that have eccentrics on them, so that the actual head of the piece of equipment vibrates, and it just vibrates the pile into the ground, and it's really effective. And then now, usually when we do that, we'll pound it even further with a big diesel hammer, and then fill it with concrete or rebar. But now with some of the sites, the ground is so hard, we've gotten into drilling. So there's a hydraulic power pack, right? So it sends oil to this drill head. That's again leads coming up, hanging off the lines off the crane. And then it turns very slowly into the ground, but at the same time we've got 4 giant air compressors that feed air into this head that blows the material out. So that's the new area we've gotten into.
Using the air.
So you've got the hydraulic power turning the drill bit into the ground, like a big giant drill, but then you have air being blown into the hole to blow the material out of the hole at the same time. So it goes in tubes and then comes out the middle tube, and that's the new thing. But it's a science that's not yet perfected at all. So we're getting into drilling. It's quite interesting. It's a little more complicated.
And so, just so I understand, drilling in order to put piles in, are those,
So what they're doing is they can drill inside the pile and then fill it up, or the drill heads, the bits, when they get down, the wings spit out, and what it does is it drills down, it pushes the pile down on top of it at the same time, and so when they turn off the air, the wings close in, and then they can pull it out of the pile. And now you have to think you're doing this 50, 60, 30 feet in the ground, and you have no way of seeing what it actually, what if it's gonna, there's been times where they've gotten it stuck and somehow managed to get it to the wings to come back in and pull it out, but you run the risk of losing, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 drill bit into the hole and having no way to get it out. So those are the risks that you take, right?
So that's something that's happening up in Prince Rupert at the moment.
Yeah, we've done a couple small jobs. We just did, I think, 22 or 26 piles up in Prince Rupert. And then we've actually got a 60-inch drill, so inside a 5-foot pipe that we're testing in the yard. Those other ones are just 24-inch and 36-inch. And we're testing out a 60-inch drill in the yard right now to go up there at the end of the month and drill some more really big piles. And
do you test it? Like, you don't actually...
Yeah, we've got a pile driven into the ground in the lower yard, and we've got the crane, all the air compressors, the hydraulic power pack, all the leads set up, and there's a new position they've made one of the foremen into a drill superintendent, and so he's looking after all this testing, and he's supposed to take care or not take care, but coordinate and evaluate all the drill equipment so that, to help, obviously, the E&Y division, because it's such a new thing that there's just a lot of information and, the manpower associated with it to set it up and run it.
You've been here 10 years with the company.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're saying that just in that time, the tasks become much more technical, much more complicated. Is that true?
They've always been technical. Part of the reason things are becoming a little more, I guess, detail-oriented is to do with also safety. As our company, we're pushing to be really safety-driven, and all those things, questions come up. and the more questions that come up, the more technical the answers. And anything we do, the equipment, especially cranes, because there's a lot of regulations with the crawler cranes, mobile cranes. It all goes back to manufacturer specification. You have to meet those, right? And all those details are all in the manuals of the cranes, and right down any wire, all the boom stuff is all inspected all the time. But those things, there's a ton of information when I started, but none of it was organized or laid out in any sort of form. So I've taken it upon myself to make that all readily available and easy to find, so that any of the guys can pick up the welding procedure that are the welders are trained to weld the booms for repairs, and it's all laid out there. There's no hiding it, but now it's easily obtainable. Yeah.
Okay. Shall I keep going with some of the other sites that you're going at the moment?
Where else? We are just down in here at Queensgate in New Westminster, moving some of those floating homes and dredging down there. They drove some piles.
Floating homes, which...
there's some floating homes down there. I've never actually been to that site. They had to move some of those around to get into the dredging. So they use the clamshell bucket. That's been around for a long time to dredge up material in the river. The dredge is out at close to Mather's Pit. I'm not sure where they pick up the sand, but they're pumping sand ashore out in Richmond, close to Triangle Road there, number 6 road, onto the levee. And it's just the big sand pits where we've got bulldozers and loader equipment pushing the sand around so that they level it up to the grades. Also got a couple small found land jobs going. So just over just over the Alex Fraser Bridge, trailer wizards were pounding piles into the ground there with a diesel hammer for their new scale, I believe it is. And there's all sorts of little jobs like that. We just came back from Chemainus, the deep sea dock, where we had our little 20-ton truck crane driving piles through the dock to reinforce the dock for upgrades. We always send the little cranes out for house foundation jobs. So little 30 by 50 lots, drive 4 or 5 or 6 piles into the ground so they can build a house here in Richmond.
So just like a private person could just call you up and say, hey,
yeah, we've done a lot just over here in Queensborough.
Right,
there's always houses going up there. We just finished early this year the big dredging project over in Esquimalt graving dock, where we had 3 rigs dredging for almost 6 months straight of all the waste material from the old Navy bases there. It was all done with sealed scows and environmental buckets. So there are these giant buckets we bought that take square cuts, and so that way they were able to do all the sounding to depth with their new GPS systems on our equipment, right down to a couple inches of accuracy.
Right.
So that was quite a large project that just finished earlier this year.
They were part of that dredge was because it's contaminated material.
Yeah.
And have you had anything to do with, say, Port Royal and Queensborough? Is that new? Is that something?
I know in Queensborough, I know we put up a few years back the sheep pile walls there. Nothing of light that I recall. I know this rail bridge here gets hit all the time, and we've done a lot of major work to that, along with all the other bridges around here. Yeah, and then of course there's the Golniers Bridge. We did all the foundation for that back in 2005 or 6. The Portman Bridge, we did all the foundation for Kiewit a few years ago.
Foundation being
so you set up it's called coffer dams. You drive sheet piles walls, so you make like a dam, and then that way they can pump out all the water and set in all the pipes and concrete below water level, right? We also built the giant trestle bridge that ran next to the Portman Bridge, the old one. It ran right out in the middle of the river so that they could get out there with other equipment and do work out there.
I always wondered how that.
Yeah.
How they did all that.
Well, yeah.
People actually go in when you create those.
That's true,
What did you call them?
Like cofferdams.
Cofferdams.
Yeah, so it's just like a giant square, it's a wall that's connected on all four sides, so it's a square around the base. And
made of what? Like, and how
oh,
tall?
sheet pile wall. Oh, jeez.
Sheet pile. I don't know what that is.
All it is it's like corrugated steel you see on like a sea can. It's like that, but it's super thick, and then on the ends they can slide into each other, and so you just drive those into the ground, and you make a dam.
And so people actually climb down into those cofferdams?
I believe so. That's all the bridgeman work, and I'm never usually around to see that. But
so
you guys do the bridge work. You personally aren't there.
No, I was at the time. I was a mechanic, so I was there with the equipment. But you show up and you see they built the wall, and there's cages being lifted in there and piles being driven in.
But Fraser River does that work.
Oh yeah,
you just,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've got jobs where you're drilling down into rock below lots of water, and then you've got jobs where you're just putting in some piling so some guy can build a house.
Yeah.
I mean, do people like that diversity, or are there some people that prefer to be on the water doing the exciting stuff? Or?
With the guys actually doing the work, like the operators and the bridgemen, obviously out of town jobs, big hours, good pay, but it's all the little jobs that keep everybody busy when between big jobs, the land construction side, and it also gets good training for young operators, the littler cranes, getting hours in the seat. That's where the yard is really good too for guys to train, especially on the equipment.
In the yard again, it's just
we just call this the yard.
Okay.
It's home base, right? That's where all the magic happens.
I was just wondering how we've talked about all this equipment going out to all these water sites.
Yeah.
And forgive me if this is a silly question, but how does it all get there? Like, is everything on a boat?
No, all the derricks. So the derrick is basically a work platform with a crane on it, and it's got the house end with the lunchroom, the washroom, the hydraulic gen set, the generator for power.
Okay.
And it floats, and then we call it spuds. So on each side you'll see giant steel spuds sticking in the air. So right now they're floating in the river, and so we want to work down here. We take it down there, a tugboat. Everything gets towed, and then they drop the spuds into the ground, and then they work, and then they lift the spuds if they need to move, or they get a barge dropped alongside, and when they dredge into the barge, we have deck lines with hydraulic runoff hydraulics on winches, so it can pull the winch, can pull the scow alongside it back and forth. And guys, like on the Mackenzie, the crew there, the operator, really talented, really good at what he does. When he's dredging alongside somewhere, he can drop his bucket in the river and kind of lift the spuds and guide the rig where it needs to go, within 50, 60 feet, as long as he's not going out in the river and the tide's going the right way. He can pretty much pull himself where he needs to go and just keep working away. And it's, some of those guys are pretty talented with that bucket to be able to reach down, and they can feel the level they're at, and just start scooping stuff out. Yeah, it's amazing to watch.
And are these these are people who really know the river well?
Yeah.
How does maybe we'll get to this later, but how do you find people who really know the local waters and the local river?
Some guys, like Bernie Jepson, who works here in the core division, because he deals with the mills all the time, he knows all the pockets where everything seems to get built up. He can tell you what needs to be pretty much, every year for the last 20 years we've been doing this area, it's about that time again, to go and sound it, and sure enough, that's where all the sound is accumulated. I don't talk to the tugboat guys all that often, but any of the guys that, the guys that actually work on the rigs, like the operators, the deckhands, they can see the tide, or they're familiar with, barges are really heavy coming in and the wind's blowing, things to look out for and how slow to pull it up so you don't damage equipment.
And the tugs and scows, like, is this all, do you contract
So
out?
we contract out all the towing of our derricks, and of course the scow is just a giant work platform that's empty with sidewalls. So it can be used to haul, equipment or pipe material, or our dredging scows, it's mud and sand on it, right? Or rock if we're doing a rock job to place rock or scoop out rock. We have a few tugs. We have 3 tugs, but there's just for at jobs just to move stuff around. But any of the towing up and down the coast or through the river, any of the locations, all done through Catherwood mostly. Catherwood towing.
Oh, okay. And are they based?
I believe they're based out of Mission.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, Catherwood towing.
You talked about how one of the nice things about the job is the people you meet and the outside the company, inside the company.
Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about some of the people you meet and the different range of people you meet, and also if you ever have any social hang out with people, that kind of stuff.
I guess I could start by when I started here, I met right off the bat the welding general foreman, Peter Young. He still works here. I've developed a good relationship with him working-wise, and also, I don't hang out with him personally, but, I always have morning coffee with him and review the day and talk to him about anything that pops up, personal or work-wise. Also, then, when I switched over to the mechanic shop, I became good friends with Ken Jorgensen, who's now the general mechanical foreman in the mechanical shop. He was I was apprenticing under him, then he became the general foreman, and then I worked under him as a sealed mechanic, and then now I'm his boss. He's a joy to deal with too. He has his good days and his bad days like anybody else. But in the last few years, the biggest person who's probably had the most impact on my working career is Mitch Hughes, the new equipment manager of the E&Y division here in the yard. He's got an extensive background in marine like scows and construction. He's helped me out a lot and taught me a lot of good things, and he's got a lot of experience with dry docks and extensive repairs and things to look for. Besides that, all the guys that I used to work with, or now our crew that report under me, I think it's just because I always have a positive attitude, pretty easygoing, that I've just taken those friend relationships, and I'm still friends with them outside of work, and I still talk to them like friends at work, but they respect me enough that if I say something has to be done, or my opinion, and whether it's because this is the way I want it done because there isn't time, or I don't want to spend the extra cost to do things slightly differently, or I think this is more effective to do it this way, they respect that, and they listen. And then of course the relationships that I didn't have up here prior to starting that position, gotten to know a lot of the construction managers, and I've gone out for drinks with some of them. Don't have a problem, any favors that they call on the weekend personal-wise, or some of the guys call me about how to fix their boat because they know I'm mechanically inclined, and just a good group of guys, and never always willing to joke around. And I do that a lot because I find that it makes the day go pretty easy, and I'm always doing some sort of practical joke on somebody. So
it sounds as though the company is kind of tight.
Oh yeah, I'd say so. It helps that everybody right now and all the departments are clicking, as there's no real big hiccups between anybody, and nobody if somebody makes a mistake, I don't really want to call them out on it. As I learn from my mistakes. Let's learn from yours, and let's just right the ship. And if there's a cost associated with it, I'm sure I'll get the brunt of it. But let's do it the right way and on from there.
Are most people working here kind of this is their main job? They're here for life, kind of thing.
Yeah. We have in the welding shop and mechanical shop, the two crews I take care of. We've got one guy who's just working, getting his Red Seal ticket right now. He's still an apprentice in his first year. But it's a lifetime job. It's a career. If there's opportunities like what I took to advance, but it's they're trades. Even with the operators in Bridgman, they're trades that there's always a demand for. Sometimes it's not pretty work, but it pays well, and it's in demand.
So that's part of what I'm sort of asking is surely there'd be companies outside that would want to poach people away, but
there's a few guys that have left to go for other companies, and they've said I've been asked for these guys, and most of those guys didn't work here as long, and they came, and whether they prefer more of a newer atmosphere maybe, which everybody's opinion. Our stuff's all older in age, and it's out in the water and out in the mud and dirt, whereas some of the places, the equipment they work on is at least it's on solid ground.
What's comparable then, like these other places?
Well, we haven't had too many guys go to fitting, but if it's all new hydraulic stuff, hydraulic equipment.
New machine, yeah.
Right, and you can work in their giant shop where everything's inside.
Okay.
Pretty much nothing's inside at our shop, everything's outside, or the small stuff you can bring in undercover. Yeah. Got a fellow go to the longshoremen just recently, so they have big container handlers there, and I believe they do have a rather large warehouse or a shop there, depending which location.
So there is some movement, there is some turnover, but
generally it's pretty low for the two shops I take care of, because the operators and bridgemen, it's more, as the more jobs there are, the more operators we need. Yet if there's not much work, then they go back to the hall, and they could get booked out to Vancouver Pile or any other company that uses the hall.
Oh, okay. So you guys are hiring through the hall for a lot of your.
Oh yeah, for everybody except for when they get here. For the core guys, which is both my shops, and then the bridgemen and the operators have a couple core guys that pretty much are always on unless we're absolutely no work, but that hasn't happened in years. But because of the welding and the mechanical side of the equipment, we benefit from having guys who are familiar with the equipment. So it's been budgeted, and then I keep, try to keep the hours in line to meet the budget every week, that we have steady work if things slow down.
Okay.
So we don't have to lay those guys off, because it's invaluable to have somebody who knows the equipment versus, letting them go and he gets a job somewhere else, and then bringing a new guy in who doesn't know conventional cranes all that well, or is not familiar with their spud derricks, and then it's a learning curve all over again.
So would you, how important is it to you to have the same guys coming back? Would the company, for instance, sort of, would you say, okay, let's not take this job, and rather try and postpone it by a few months to even out the work? Do you do that kind of thing?
No, all the job initiation is done by the construction division and their managers and their job coordinators.
Okay.
If there's the biggest thing that controls whether we can do the job is if we have enough equipment. If there's two giant jobs at the same time and we don't have, we do a lot of, cranes and derricks on the water go from here to there, and they try to coordinate it, which is an art in itself, and they try to figure out. But if there's too big of jobs going at the same time, and they'll either borrow equipment or rent out equipment, or try to push it, if they get it, try to push it in the direction so that we can time it so something else is done.
And so you try and keep the same people working the same equipment. Right. And did you ever spend time at the hall yourself?
No, I was fortunate enough that when my father-in-law was here, he had them personally request me. So I signed up at the hall, I did the test, got dispatched here, and then I've just been here ever since.
Right. And there was always enough work for you to...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
You mentioned something about some of the work's not pretty. When you wondered what you would do.
Have you ever seen the show Dirty Jobs? With Mike?
No, but I know...
Yeah, it's working, in the mud, in the middle of the night, in the rain, greasy, oily, dirty inside a scow. Pretty much, it's not a job where you can just go, okay, here's your instruction manual to fix this. If it's out in the field, you just use whatever you have, safely. But it's intuition. Intuitive. There's the word. To come up with, you're working on something, you might have to get this giant pin out. And what do I have as tools wise that I can rig up to support this? To use a porter power to push this out, or it's a dirty job, but
somebody's got it.
Yeah.
And so basically, just so I understand, because I have very little background. So when you're primarily repairing equipment, and that's constantly happening because there's so much equipment that's, I guess, owned.
Yep. So we have scheduled maintenance.
Okay.
Right. And then I have PM tasks, so preventative maintenance tasks.
Okay.
Inspections, and then always trying to collect data to, how do I put it, to keep track of components wearing out. So for example, every day the operators use the cranes, they fill the log sheet. Okay. So we know the hours, if there's any complaints, like, top windshield wiper not working, or if they start noticing the torque converter is leaking, or it's heating up all the time abnormally. I get those sheets once a week. I take a photocopy of it. I talk to my mechanical foreman about it. Depending where it is, if it's usually you can coordinate it when it's coming back or they're not working at the site. Go look over the repairs, and that's our maintenance / preventative maintenance. The inspections, following all the rules set out by WorkSafe BC, we keep track of when cranes are used for driving piles, pulling piles. Drop hammer work, and it leads to whether it's a 30-day or 90-day inspection. And as soon as they say, yeah, we pulled piles, my coordinator, puts it in his computer, and then the program we use, pops up going, and he writes it on his board, and then the welding foreman will come and have a look every day, and, okay, that crane's due. And then as that date gets closer, depending if it's off a job, I usually time it so when it comes back to the yard, he'll inspect the boom, look for any damage or any cracks, and repair them accordingly. And then, of course, once a year, I've got to have Maytech, the structural engineering company, come over and they look over the complete structure of the crane, visual, check the entire boom, check the operation of the crane, look at our complete work records of the year, so anything we've done, make sure we're keeping track of the repairs, and that suffices our annual inspection. And then, a good example is our bulldozers out at the levee. So they have tracks, right? Well, each set of tracks is $35,000, and we were doing a set every year. Well, we were doing a set a year, so for 3 dozers, $100,000 plus. So nobody could get an answer as to how long they would last. So when I started tracking the hours of each time we had to do a pin turn or change tracks. And I've got this giant spreadsheet with all the fitting out there all the time to take measurements. And, that's one component I can, I can get them out there and go, okay, I need to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Like now, this is where you will get the most cost-effective life out of those tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly, I'm collecting data from rebuilding vibros. When bearings fell, nose, crane, like the engines and the pumps on our newer Levera cranes. Trying to build a history to see, okay, so they recommend every 10,000 hours changing this, but so far we've shown every 6,000 hours the work we do, this component fails. So then, as you build that up, you can gain the history. And that's great. The only thing is that we have such vast types of equipment, and only ever a couple are the same. And of course, up until the last few years, the record keeping might not have been that detailed or that good. That it's just it's starting. So and those are the different types of maintenance we do.
Okay.
Yeah. Other than also the emergency. It's broken. Yeah. Come fix it, please.
Yeah, sure.
How often would you have? Would you go to Prince Rupert, for example, or something?
If they had a problem that was detrimental, we'd be up. I'd send them up on the plane today.
Oh, okay.
They've been working up there for 3 months, and I sent a mechanic up there for the first week they set up to help set up because it was a new system we put on the crane. Everything seemed to be fine, so he came back down, and then we just sent 2 guys up there last week to do servicing and go through a list of a few repairs that weren't crucial, but nice to fix when you have a chance. And that part I can say, since I've been on the tools, there's been a lot less emergency repairs needed, because we've kind of been able to bring our maintainer fleet better or catch more problems. I don't think I send the guys out as much as we used to, just because we're becoming more efficient and keeping track of everything. So it's made things a lot better.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. I think that's covered a lot of really good topics. Maybe one last sort of topic we haven't talked about, and that's the New Westminster, the place. Is this? Do you live here? Do you have an attachment to the local community?
I grew up in Pitt Meadows, like I said.
Yeah.
I moved. We bought a house in Langley with my wife and our kids there now.
Okay.
I don't really have a certain attachment to New Westminster, other than I'm proud to say I'm associated with Fraser River and the history it's gone with it, and of course, my family lines are within the company. And then, just looking, I have old pictures up in my office at home from the 50s and 60s, and black and white pictures of the cranes working away. And
these are pictures from your father-in-law? And
actually, my wife dug them out of archives a few years back for me for a Father's Day present. Okay. And one of the pictures from, I believe it's 51 or 52, is supposedly of my wife's grandfather in the little crane building a warehouse somewhere on the waterfront here. And it's pretty cool to see, back when safety regulations were in, the crane, the way it was sitting, no safety on a lot of this stuff. And guys standing there with no hard hats right by the piles being driven.
Yeah.
You see the change in the safety aspect over the years too.
It may be a picture that you'd want to track down.
I'm sure if you talk to the girls here, there's a ton of old photos in the archives and amazing pictures, black and white, and all sorts of neat stuff.
Yeah, I was trying to ask about that. Yeah, because we're looking, we're getting into really building the exhibit, so looking for photographs that reflect past and present, right now as well.
So you were describing some of the key objects that you have at work, and could you mention those?
Sure. With the technology advances we've had in the last, I guess, 5-6 years, one of my key items to use is my iPhone. Pictures, apps. I've downloaded apps that have the entire crane, derrick, equipment book information all in PDF on my phone instantly. Guys need to know line lengths, data, sizes, bucket numbers, weights.
It's all
and
there.
I have it all on my iPhone. I take pictures of everything. I print them off, draw on them how I want the repair done, or for pictures or when we're painting equipment, what it looks like. And then, of course, the other key tools of every day, your work boots, your hard hats, your safety glasses. And, of course, now all the, anybody in the management side, salary side has a pickup truck, so we always got a red truck parked out front.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.